Only thing better than one barrel is two, Diver. And with the double freedom, that's exactly what you get. Quartermaster creature here. Let's get into this beautiful bestower of blessed buckshot. The DBS2 double freedom is exactly what it looks like. A beastly break action double barrel shotgun firing massive 4-gauge shells with 12 pellets for 840 damage per shot. The highest out of any shotgun, even out damaging the M90A by almost 40%. And that's per shot. There's two, obviously, for a total 1680 damage face full of flak for anything foolish enough to square up. Oh, and don't forget the volley mode, allowing both barrels to be fired at once. And as well, these beastly shells feature medium armor penetration, making the double freedom exceptional for pretty much every size target short of Leviathans. Phew, I think I've been sweating this soon into a gear breakdown, Diver. We haven't even got to the half of this 4-gauge wonder blunder. Quick little note, Helldivers. High Command recently gave us the ability to bind weapon options. In particular, the weapon wheel right will change the double freedom from single to volley mode in a single press. Just a little tip. Now, of course, with any shotgun, there is the issue of range. But a question for you, Helldiver. What do you think the maximum effective range in the double freedom is? 20 meters? 30? 40? Well, get this. 50 meters. The ballistic experts of Super Earth have packed these glorious 4-gauge shells with such love and freedom that the reach of the pellets can take even distant rocket devastators by surprise. Coupled with that, the pellet spread is extremely generous, further contributing to the surprising yet most welcome accuracy of the double freedom. And you may be thinking, Quartermaster, what are the downsides of such a tremendous and stylish piece of Super Earth steel? The answer to that lies in the name of this bold break action beast. Double barrel more specifically, as the double freedom could only fire twice before requiring reload, or once in volley mode, as you may have surmised. Though this is more of a feature of the nature of this cannon than a downside in this Quartermaster's opinion, as even with the frequent reloads, it is surprisingly fast. However, if I'm made to pick a genuine weakness of the double freedom, the 40 total ammo can disappear quickly should you fail to temper the desire to rip and tear, especially in volley mode with only 20 volley shots before running dry. Perhaps consider some restraint before sending a single scavenger to the big nest in the sky with 1600 damage to its poor little face? Want to support your Quartermaster in making these gear showcases? Introducing 2 tiers of channel memberships. Provisioners get these lovely little emotes and badges to use along with their names shown at the end of my showcases. The tier up, Master at Arms, however, you divers get your names read out by yours truly, plus all prior rewards. Special rewards for special Helldivers. But keep in mind, your Quartermaster will be fine without your support, just if you've got a few spare super credits burning a hole in your armor. But for now, the glorious return of our best and brightest birdie, the Q.U.A.I.L chart 2.0. New and improved with more categories and rankings with which to rank Super Earth's strongest steel. DPS, or damage per second, is self-explanatory. Burst damage, however, is how much of a punch a piece of gear can deliver to the enemies of democracy in one go. Capacity defines how long a weapon can be used before requiring our next category. Reload is another self-explanatory one, covering how long a reload takes and the mobility available to a diver during. Reliability covers how consistently a weapon performs in its ideal scenario and otherwise. And lastly, utility, which is defined by niche uses and general battlefield usefulness. Got all that? Great, let's go. For DPS, I'm going to give the double freedom a 7. Now, this may surprise you, but the double freedom is actually capable of out-damaging the maxi gun, though only when using siege-ready armors for faster reloads. Burst damage, however, is a different story. 9 for our delectable DF, as 1,680 damage thanks to volley mode is nothing to scoff at. Along with that, single fire's 840 damage per buckshot blast packs a beastly punch. Both of these earning the 9 and then some for the double freedom. Capacity is gonna need to be a 2. Both for the meme, along with the ammo capacity and total ammo. While the double-barreled nature of the DF is a big part of the appeal, it's hard to deny the impact this has in the versatility of this shotgun, and the 40 total ammo definitely doesn't help either. As for reload, I'd like to say 7, but ultimately I'm gonna have to go with 6. While the reload is nice and snappy and no ammo is wasted even when loading one shell at a time, the frequency with which this beast needs fed can be quite tiresome indeed. For reliability, I'm probably gonna get some heat for this, but it's gotta be a 9. This thing does its job flawlessly in almost any scenario, obliterating the enemies of freedom in but a single shot. And if they're eager for more, you've always got another loaded Helldiver. The only scenario I see being inconsistent with this beast is the matchup with Overseers. Their ablative armor can give shotguns some trouble, but we'll get to that later. And lastly, utility for the double freedom. I'd give it a 6, considering the use cases for the shotgun and downing just about anything a diver might face, along with the superb range, though it lacks any unique qualities beyond one-shot and disruptor power supplies. Hence the 6. Overall, an extremely respectable Q.U.A.I.L score in this Quartermaster's opinion. Though I'm always looking to improve in this system, Helldivers. Feel free to let me know what you disagree with or any categories that need changed. Moving onwards to enemy matchups, it's tough to choose a faction the double freedom performs best against, because in all honesty, this thing is an absolute machine against all 3 of our galactic foes. So, speaking of machines, let's first cover the fascist automatons. Shotguns on this front tend to struggle, with the exception of the Slugger and Breaker. And now the double freedom stands tall beside them as a true automaton smasher. As per usual for your Quartermasters weapons breakdowns, let's talk about the DF's performance against the bulk of the automaton's forces, their devious devastators and berserkers. Against normal and rocket devastators, the double freedom absolutely chews them up, with a single shot to their heads from close to medium range, enough to blow them to pieces. And with a tight spread and a little luck, your chances of hitting such a weak point are excellent, Helldiver. Though a more interesting weak point for the double freedom on berserkers is their stomachs, with only 5 of the 12 pellets per DF buckshot required to blow them in half for good. And while popping the heads of devastators with surgical precision will never get old, bifurcating these with a belly full of buckshot is just as satisfying. Heavy devastators, however, can be a little more troublesome, as at a decent range their indestructible shields can eat quite a chunk of the pellets of freedom. As such, if you have the drop on them, I'd recommend destroying their backpacks, or if you could reach, their stomachs, same as berserkers. Aiming for center mass seems to be a theme here for these bots, as the waists of striders are ample targets, even with their medium armor. More you know. And while the double freedom lacks the armor penetration to fell any of the automaton's heavier foes directly without careful positioning, did you know it can one-tap, well technically 2, the heat sinks on the backs of hulks from a fair distance using volley mode? Same for all 3 variants of automaton tanks, either by targeting their rear heat sinks, rear lower hulls, or treads to immobilize them. And while definitely not recommended, it is possible to destroy even factory striders with this double-barrel bundle of fun. Though, thanks to the angle needed to access their underside weak point, I don't quite know if I can recommend the double freedom for this test. Enemies to avoid with this double-barreled piece of freedom are war striders, obviously for their lack of medium-armed weak points in gunships due to range limitations. While theoretically possible to down these flying fiends due to their medium armor, this Quartermaster can't quite recommend it. Even so, if you find one by its lonesome and fancy some clay gunship shooting, give it a go. Now onwards to our second faction, the Illuminate. This is a curious matchup for the Double Freedom, as most of the armor these dastardly foes field is medium at most, with the exception of Leviathans. This makes the DF very well suited for obliterating Harvester's shield prongs and in leg joints, assuming a diver is able to get in position. And an entirely unexpected W for our double barrel is its performance against stingrays. Well, obviously you're not going to be shooting any of these as they circle the sky searching for targets. It's shockingly easy to down them with volley mode as they fly overhead, only taking 1 or 2 blasts to completely defeat. A strange one here, however, is Overseers. While the Double Freedom can, in theory, one-shot Overseers, I find this rare and inconsistent. Instead of aiming for the usual center mass in both normal and crescent variants, I'd recommend a swift headshot Helldiver. And if that doesn't work, the other barrel should hopefully do the trick. Elevated Overseers, however, oh ho ho, now we're talking. Thanks to their lesser health, popping them by destroying their torsos is an extremely simple task. Almost too easy. But I won't complain about a free kill in such an annoying skybound blighter. And you likely already know what I'm gonna say on Voltless and Flesh Mobs Helldiver. One on its own, no problem. But many, even multiple, can give the Double Freedom issues. And Flesh Mobs are simply too tanky, requiring 6 shots to down even one. There's better weapons for this job, Diver. Use them. And last, but certainly not least, our E7 tend to be the Terminids. The Double Freedom matchup here is entirely seed-dependent, Helldiver. Get a Hive Guard spawn? Ho ho! You'll be blasting through their faceplates and eating good for days. Hell yeah! A Hunter spawn, however. Run. They're coming. You have but one objective. Survive. As for the more consistent enemies you'll face, Bile Spears can be troublesome, but the Double Freedom absolutely deletes them. One shot, if you're close enough, will destroy their heads like popping a balloon. Though, for something a little taller, Alpha Commanders with their beastly health pools can also be one shot, once more to the face by this oh-so-sweet Double Trouble blunderbuss. Just remember a melee after they charge, that'll stop them. And moving up the weight classes even further, let's talk Chargers. Their exposed behinds should take 3 shots to explode, sadly volley mode not being sufficient to beat them. Though going point blank to the face of an impaler and giving it a mouthful of Super Earth's finest flak should end their reign of tyranny nice and swift. Now, let's talk about the Titan in the room. Those of the Bile variety. I can't quite say I recommend the Double Freedom for this job, as they are tanky. The rest of the Terminid horde, however, will go down quick, but their numbers will quickly overwhelm the Double Freedom if you get unlucky with enemy constellations. Moving on to Quartermasters Counsel. This, like the stalwart I covered prior, is a real toughie. It has a role and it does it well, with a massive downside to make up for the sheer killing potential it boasts. It'd actually pair well with the stalwart now that I think about it. Oh, I know. Muzzle attachments. And while the attachments in the Double Freedom are good, I don't think anyone would complain about making the spread even tighter, or perhaps adding a duckbill choke for some nice horizontal leveling. Maybe even a 4-time scope for those long-range Devastator hunters amongst us? Counsel concluded. Now, if there's anything to take away from today's lesson, Helldiver, it's that the expected range and power of a weapon is often right, but in rare cases, you get something like the Double Freedom. An absolute standout from weapons of its class, even stepping on the toes of some marksman rifles like the Diligence, while also retaining that iconic shotgun CQC power. With a few obvious limitations and weaknesses. But even with those, I know in the hands of a Helldiver this weapon will shine brighter than the stars themselves, no matter the constellation it faces. This is Quartermaster Creature, signing off. If you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy one of these ones too. Remember to like and subscribe and all that, and come watch me on Twitch as well, if you are interested, and I will see you next time.